Hello, my name is Thomas Crockett. I'm a member of the California Writers Club, and I'm going to tell a story I wrote called Crabbing with Uncle Carmine. My mother warned me about Uncle Carmine. He's not Napolitan, he's Sicilian. She explained the difference, saying when a Sicilian slaps you in the head and calls you stupid, he means it. When a Napolitan does it, it's a sign of affection. She wanted me to know this important distinction before I went crabbing with him and his daughters at Jamaica Bay, adding a final note. Watch out for those girls. They have his blood. They were twins, 14 years old, named Carmen and Camilla, which sounds like a Gilbert and Sullivan vaudeville act, though there was nothing entertaining about them. They wore matching beehive hairdos, making them look 10 feet tall, twice their actual height. They were cigarette-smoking, tough as nails, foul-mouthed girls, talking from the sides of their mouths, which didn't appeal to me, believing as I did that girls should emulate Donna Reed, not Edward G. Robinson. They didn't go to school. At least most of the time they didn't. That's another reason, aside from their being Sicilian, my mother warned me about them. Uncle Carmine wasn't a blood uncle. He was a neighbor who I learned to call uncle from the time I could talk. I liked him. He let me touch his muscles. He showed me his medals and his army uniform from World War II. He bragged about making money from gambling. He bet on horses and baseball. He played poker, craps, pitched pennies, whatever it took to make extra pocket money, as he liked to say. More than once, I benefited from his pocket money. He'd slip a couple of dollars in my shirt pocket, telling me if I was smart I could multiply those dollar bills the way Jesus Christ multiplied loaves of bread and fishes. It was the only time I heard him make a religious reference, not counting the times he said, Jesus fucking Christ almighty. Some of the older kids in the street said that after he got out of the army, he spent time in jail for stealing cars, robbing grocery stores, and killing someone with a beer bottle in a barroom fight. I asked my mother if the stories were true. She said they weren't. His only crime was being Sicilian. When he invited me to go crabbing with him and his daughters, I accepted, despite my misgivings. One in particular. I didn't like crabs. I didn't want to look at them, let alone catch them. I had watched a movie called Attack of the Crab Monsters, where on an island affected by a radiation fallout, giant crabs wreaked havoc on a team of scientists, snatching them one by one in their razor-like claws as the earth shuddered and crumbled, assaulted by a tidal wave of terror, signaling the end of the world as man had known it. You couldn't tell me it was just a movie. Movie or not, that impression stayed with me, making me wary of even the tiniest of crabs in the fish store window, swimming in glass containers. What if a radiation fallout occurred where I lived? What if the crabs grew larger in those glass containers? What if they became larger than the store itself and began clawing their way down the avenue and started eating all the people who wanted to eat them? I set aside my misgivings and went with them, believing it would be rude not to accept an invitation. They stationed themselves 30 feet apart to cover as much of the water as they could, to catch crabs in different areas. At first, they told me to stand back and watch until I was ready to do what they did. I watched them throw nets in the water and pull them back up. They caught dozens of crabs of all sizes. They threw the small ones back and kept the big ones, putting them in a large bucket. I couldn't believe the way the girls handled the crabs with their bare hands, throwing them in a bucket, showing no fear that the crabs would bite or claw them. I assumed they hadn't seen Attack of the Crab Monsters. I asked them if they were going to eat all the crabs. They looked at me with their matching eyes, lips, and nose, their identical beehive hairdos. I had no idea who was Carmen and who was Camilla. One of them said, "We're here to make money, not eat crabs." I asked how they were going to make money. The other twin said, "What are you, stupid or something?" I didn't speak after that. I looked at the crabs moving their claws, sliding their mouths open and shut. I looked at one. He looked at me. his little eyes blinking. I heard him say, "Go ahead, boil me, eat me, if you dare. Just know this, I know where you live, and when the radiation fallout occurs, you'll be the first one I come for." I walked away from the bucket. Uncle Carmine asked me if I was ready to catch crabs. He didn't take me to be a spectator. Everyone had to pull their weight. He handed me a net, told me to position myself 30 feet from him. Could I do that? Throw the net in the water and pull it back up full of crabs, like the rest of them did? I didn't tell him what I was thinking, that I wouldn't be able to handle the crabs with my bare hands, not like his daughters. I wasn't like them. I saw movies, they didn't. I said yes. He gave me a net, told me what to do, and walked away. 10 minutes later, he came by and said, "Where's the net?" "It's in the water," I said, "like you told me to do. Throw it in." He looked around, took a long drag on his cigarette, blew the smoke in my face. "Did you tie it up before you threw it in?" His face was shrouded in smoke, those dark eyes that had seen war and maybe even jail if the older kids on the street were right. Those eyes descended from Sicily, where I knew, according to my mother, men were no good. "You didn't tell me to tie it up," I said. He slapped my head and called me stupid. "How do you expect to get the net back? Are you going to jump in the water and swim to retrieve it?" "I can't swim," I said. "Of course you can't swim," he said, "and you can't crab either." "You didn't tell me to tie it up," I said. "You just said throw it in." "Jesus fucking Christ almighty," he yelled. "Do I have to tell you to wipe your ass? Some things you do because it makes sense to do them. Think about it. If you throw the net in the water and you don't tie it, how do you get it back?" "I didn't think about it," I said. "I just did what you told me to do." "What if I said jump in and catch the crabs with your teeth?" he shouted. "You going to do that?" "No," I answered. "I don't swim." He slapped my head. "Well, the net doesn't swim either, stupid." The twin girls came over, cigarettes dangling from their lips. Their father told them what I'd done. One of them slapped my head and called me stupid, and the other one slapped my head and called me stupid. Then, in case I hadn't received the message, Uncle Carmine slapped my head one more time and called me stupid. I didn't tell my mother what had happened. I said only she was right about Sicilians. After that day, I no longer desired to touch Carmine's muscles or look at his medals and uniform. I didn't even want those occasional dollar bills he gave me. I, in fact, stopped calling him my uncle. My real uncles were Napolitan, as were my aunts and all my mother's people. I just wanted to be around them, because I knew if they slapped me in the head and called me stupid, they would do it in a way that made me feel loved.